Congressman Byron Donalds, Republican from Florida, joins me now. Congressman, was that Biden voting reform bill a civil rights bill?
Well, first, let's say this. When it comes to voting rights are always a civil rights issue. But that bill is not about civil rights. That bill is about politics. It's important for everybody to understand that the elements of the 1965 Voting Rights Act are still enforced today. There's only one portion that's not enforced anymore. It's pre-clearance. And pre-clearance is not enforced anymore because there's been no statistical data for the last 30 years in the United States that there is systematic discrimination against black voters. And people who feel that way should bring a federal lawsuit because they can still do that under the provisions of the 1965 Voting Rights Act.
I just don't understand why you cannot be told to bring ID when you vote. Look, you have to have ID to get in this building. You've got to have ID to get on a plane. You have to have ID for just about everything. So why not for voting? I don't understand that.
I'll add one to it. In Washington, D.C., as of, I believe, tomorrow, you got to bring a vaccination card and an ID to walk in any establishment.
Exactly.
Here's the issue we have is that the Democrats always go to voting rights as a way to shore up their base. And the reason they're having to do this so early is because Joe Biden has failed on every measure. He's polling at 33%. Even amongst Democrats, only 75% of them approve of what he's doing. That's terrible for the people in your own party. He has failed. He has nowhere else to go. So they're going to go back to the red herring argument with voting rights.
I want to get back to this ID thing. Does it, if you demand ID to vote, does that suppress the vote, as some civil rights leaders say it does?
No, it simply does not, simply because IDs are so prevalent in the United States. Virtually everybody has them, and virtually every jurisdiction that requires voter ID to vote, if you can't afford it, they will give it to you for free. So that is simply not true. It's an argument that they like to use. And furthermore, the Democrats are already starting to shift off of that argument because polling amongst black voters has demonstrated that black voters actually support voter ID.
Yeah.
So now the Democrats are slowly moving away from that argument.
And it's condescending to suggest that black folks can't produce ID like everybody else. That is condescending.
That's absolutely correct. It is, which is why I think if you look at what they're trying to do, it is a radical takeover to help keep them in power. It's not about voting rights for the American people or black voters in particular.
Any need to reform voting procedures in Florida?
No, we have the best laws in the country. Listen, we've proven to everybody time and time again how to get this done. And it's happened. This took us 20 years to get here, but we're there right now.
It's always good talking to you, Congressman. You come from Florida. You love Florida. So do I. Byron Donalds, thank you very much for being with us. As always, sir. I still owe you that lunch, and I promise to pay you when I get there. See you later.
Oh, listen, I'm going to hold you accountable for that one. We're going to do that.
Ooh, and it's on videotape, too. Okay, sir, I'll do it. And I'm paying. What a guy. See you later, Congressman.